What is going on, Governors? Chisgule here, and the matchmaking for Season 4 of KvK starts right now. Hello, my friends, and welcome back. In this video, we are going to walk through how matchmaking works in the Light and Darkness KvK cycle. If you like Rise of Kingdoms videos where we help you smash in Kingdom versus Kingdom, then you should like and subscribe. This, my friends, is just the beginning of our Season 4 of KvK coverage. So, how does this work? It is so much different than previous Kingdom versus Kingdom battles. Now, normally, you just sort of casually or informally ally with different kingdoms in your KvK matchup, but Light and Darkness forces a 4-on-4 situation, 4 kingdoms versus 4 other kingdoms, and it does so in a way such that there's roughly equivalent power among those kingdoms, but there are a couple tiers of power. Let me show you a little bit more what that looks like. Here you can see our team will be forming, and we've got 1A paired with 3 Bs. So what that means is that the A tier of kingdoms are higher power, most are Imperium, and the B kingdoms are lower than that, but still pretty gosh darn mighty, and there's going to be 1A and 3 Bs in every group of 4. So once you've formed your group of 4, and we'll talk about how you do that in just a second, then and only then do you get matched up against another group of 4, which has the same ABB configuration. There's also a CDD configuration. We don't want to get too confusing here, but the ABBs get paired up with other ABBs, and that's how the matchmaking works, and this all sort of ends in 5 days total. It's just a few hours after reset now. There's a couple other things certainly worth mentioning about this. If you don't make your way onto a team, don't worry. You'll get randomly assigned to one, although I do kind of worry about being randomly assigned onto a team and the cohesiveness of that team. Obviously, you want to be in the situation where you're choosing who you get to work with, and I think teams are going to move really gosh darn quickly to line up who it is that they want to work with. Now, you know, I have some very strong feelings about how you evaluate a kingdom. I'll put a card up in the top from the last KvK where we talked very in depth on how you evaluate the power of a kingdom. And one of the things that we're doing, which might seem sort of over the top, is we're asking potential B partners to send us the rosters of their top tier warriors who are going to be on the battlefield a bunch. We want to know, like, do you have Attila Takedas? And are they going to be launching rallies? And they've got gear. Do you have T5 garrison captains that are meta and rally leads that are meta? And I think that's a fair thing. And honestly, it is a huge multiplier for the effectiveness of your kingdom. Now, there are folks that can apply. I'm not going to push the application button now because I don't want to sort of reveal anything here. You could disband your team at any time if you wanted. We're listed as the captain of the team, which means we can sort of choose who comes onto the team, or we can disband it if we want. And you can see here in the bottom right, I pushed the little scroll icon. People can post their teams and what they're looking for. You also can search. And you can see here there are D kingdoms, A kingdoms, every kingdom listed by that letter grade. You can filter by those, so you can go through and see all of the A kingdoms if you wanted. We are in Kingdom 75, so you can see that here. It lists the alliance power, so that gives you a sense of the primary alliance in the kingdom, which I think is pretty helpful, and you can send a mail to that person. Interestingly, I can send a mail to myself, which I didn't know I could go do that, but I do find this to be kind of really helpful in identifying, like, oh, hey, this is the king. If I want to go talk to them, boom, I am going to go and do that. This matchmaking is where a lot of KvK is decided, in my opinion. It's very, very important, and in our own kingdom, we've got multiple teams of players dedicated to that task. But before I talk about Kingdom 75, which I am about to do in a second, the thing that I'll say about this matchmaking that I find pretty exciting is that theoretically this means that there is going to be roughly equivalent power on both sides of your KvK matchup, which I think is great. That, I think, is really, really great. You won't get into a situation where, like, it's 2-on-6 and you get pinned into the corner because, like, what are you going to do? It's 2-on-6. It's a 4-on-4, and that 4-on-4 fight should be really interesting and compelling, but you know what? We haven't done Light and Darkness, so after we've actually been through a round of that, we'll certainly have an opinion on what we thought of how it went, and there you go, new application. Looks like it's in already, and I'm recording. This isn't even live. I'm not live, right? No, we're not live. Okay, so let's talk for a moment about the sorts of things that I think a kingdom might want to ask. And of course, I linked the card up in the top that goes way more in depth. I'm just going to tell you a little bit about Kingdom 75 as we look for allies. And, you know, we're already pretty deep into conversations with some folks, but like, look, I'm always open to chatting. And things that I think you should seriously be asking if you're going to be pairing with other kingdoms. So a couple things that I would want to understand. First and foremost, when kingdoms are reaching out to me, I ask them to send their alliance leaderboards. So I'll, of course, happily share the same here. You can see the power of the different alliances in the kingdom listed. Some of these, I think, are likely to combine in this realm to form kind of 4 more powerful alliances. That's in part because there's 4, I think it's Crusader camps that you're going to be sort of sharing. But we do have a lot of shells that are pretty exceptional. The next thing that I think is very fair to ask for is to get a look at the leaderboard by power. So you can see here we've got King Talib up at the top, Juggernaut also, Proper Beast, Gaius, Fizz. I mean, these folks, legendary, all right? A lot of really high power players on the board. So getting a look at the top of the kingdom's board, I think is really helpful as you look into allies. And, you know, look, there's some additional data that we go and collect. We, as I mentioned, have 2 teams of players doing that data collection. One team is sort of doing the diplomacy and the chatting, and the other team is a data collection team, and we've got spreadsheets on spreadsheets where information is being compiled so that we can make extremely informed decisions about who we want to partner with. Because look, man, you really depend on your allies in KvK, and I really don't think it's overthinking it to get a look at this sort of stuff. The other thing that I think is really important to do after you've established, like, okay, I think this looks good with the power of the alliances, I think this looks good with the power of the players in your kingdom, is to potentially ask for some amount of review of the rosters of the sort of powerhouse players that you expect to be disproportionately high contributors. Another thing you could ask for is like, okay, how many, you know, T5 rally leads do you have with Attila Takeda, and how many meta garrison combinations do you have and captains do you have, right? But I think it's not unreasonable to want to get a look at, you know, a roster or 2 or 5 to say like, okay, yes, it seems like they've at least got rosters that look good, and hopefully those players are actually active enough and make the contribution with those commanders. To that end, just a couple things about Kingdom 75, and again, this is somewhat of a shameless plug, but other stuff you could be asking about is how Mighty Governor is done. We actually have a fixed Mighty Governor. That's right, the whole thing is totally fixed at this point. We constrain the kill event profoundly because it's just a waste of resources. And the folks that win Mighty Governor are expected to basically expertise the commander that they're getting almost right away and use it on behalf of the kingdom. It's awarded to the folks that do tons of training, and instead of making like all of the, you know, folks I was showing you earlier as kind of mega whales battle with each other and train sort of needlessly, we instead encourage all of those players to do training during the pre-KvK events with all the speed ups that they've saved as we sort of rig our Mighty Governor wins. So the level of organization we have here is pretty high. The language that I think we're using to describe our kingdom is that we have engineered it to do the best we possibly can toward getting KvK victories. We're extremely well organized at this point. When we came to the kingdom, it was in a solid place, but we really have put a lot of time and effort into making sure that we've got, extremely well organized and classified Discord channels and servers, both for RoK and also for diplomacy and all the other kingdom needs. Our particular kingdom has a couple tiers of leadership. There's all of the alliance leaders that are in chat, and then there's a council chat, which is a much smaller group that is able to make decisive decisions very, very quickly on behalf of the kingdom. I mean, man, there's a lot to talk about here. And I think one of the most important things that you should be doing with your kingdom as you're sort of either preparing for this matchmaking to happen, or like right now, if you haven't already, form a diplomacy team, make sure their contact information is super clear and available, and start to form those teams like right away. Have the commonly requested information available so that you can move super quickly. Because look, if I just get a quick preview here, right, like some of these folks, they're already 3 out of 4 grouped up. Most of these are 1 out of 4, but here you got a 2 out of 4, so they found a partner already. Here's another 2 out of 4, right? Like folks are going to pair up pretty quickly. We're only hours after reset at this point. And to have committed to some allies, like those are some bold, fast moves here. Here's another 3 out of 4. I think that this format is pretty exciting. I'm really eager to see how all of this matchmaking stuff kind of works out. We'll certainly let you know how it goes. And one thing I do want to call your attention to is that it says here in point number 6 that after the teaming phase ends, which is what I've been sharing, teams of identical types will be matched against each other. So that's the ABBB gets matched against ABBB based on their power. So I wonder if you could, as an A team, sort of sandbag a bit and pair with really low power kingdoms in the B category, or if you're a C team, pair with low power kingdoms in the D category to try to get yourself an easier matchup. I mean, there's some pros to that. There's some definite cons to that. I think our sort of strategy is just to find kingdoms that we really get along with extremely well, that, again, has solid depth of sort of as a kingdom as a whole, having high power alliances, has high power players, and has the commander depth to really see it through. Hopefully you enjoyed this video. If you did, please do drop a like and consider subscribing for more insane kingdom versus kingdom content. And if you are interested in chatting diplomacy, you can send me or whoever is the active king of the kingdom at the time a message, and we can get that fired up. If I'm awake, that process is going to move really fast. But then we are going to request no small amount of information just to kind of really like dig in and learn everything that we want to learn to make sure that the match is really exceptional. So with all that said, and apologies for some of the shameless plug that we did throughout the video for our own kingdom, best of luck to you, and until next time, you have fun smashing the kingdom.